Good morning, please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we beseech your divine guidance in this meeting. Keep us ever mindful of our obligation. Grant us, dear Lord, wisdom, tolerance, and courage that we may well serve our county and fulfill our trust. Amen. Amen. Good morning, everyone.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of Monday, October 16th and Tuesday, October 17th.
Second.
Discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes. Do we have any public comment regarding any pending resolutions today? Okay, if not, we will move on to county engineer, and I see we have Dan here today.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was looking the other way.
That's what happens when you come late. Good morning. I have one resolution for your consideration today. Resolution awarding or authorizing the Medina County Engineer to purchase one new model year half-ton pickup and one new SUV model year.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Jeremy Cinco, our sanitary engineer.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Three resolutions for consideration today. The first is authorizing the sanitary engineer to enter an agreement with Answer Advisory for construction inspection services for the Fenn and Marks Roads water main replacement project. The second is authorizing the sanitary engineer to obtain an easement for the Westfield water main replacement project. And the third is authorizing the sanitary engineer to enter an agreement with HDR Engineering for professional design services to provide an assessment of the Westfield water treatment plant.
Move to approve the three resolutions.
Second.
Discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Jeremy.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Denise Testa from Planning Services.
Okay, good morning. I just have one resolution approving change order number 1 to the contract for the ARPA Chippewa Lake Main Drive cul-de-sac resurfacing project between Melway Paving Company and Medina County Board of Commissioners.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Just note that it's a decrease, so.
Yeah.
It is a
Rarely
decrease.
happens.
Yay.
Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Denise. Next up, we have Holly Murin, our Human Resources Director.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On our personal changes resolution today, we have 12 rate increases, 3 at sanitary, 4 at office for adults, 1 at building, 1 in IT, and 1 at job and family services, 2 return from leaves, 1 at solid waste district and 1 in sanitary, 1 resignation in maintenance, 1 suspension in sanitary, and 1 retirement in sanitary.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
you.
Next up, we have Brett Thomas, our Finance Director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I hope everybody's ready for a nap because I got 14 resolutions for you today. All the excitement and joy. We have the first one is amending our appropriations. Our second resolution is transfers of appropriations. You will notice that both of those have quite a few accounts on them this time. That is as we're going through and dealing with our getting ready for the end of year, as well as a couple new things that are opening up for us that are just fiscal year rollovers. Our third resolution is expenditure adjustments for various funds. Notably there we have the Board of Elections postage as well as a couple things for the Sheriff's Office for grants that are rolling through that we get to get reimbursed for. Our fourth resolution is for revenue adjustments for the various funds. This is just for the county home because we have residents whose monthly allowances come in off of their monthly fees now, and that gets moved out of the general to credit them. Our fifth resolution is cash transfers. Our sixth resolution is a cash transfer from the county homes levy fund over to the county home for expenses for June through September, or July through September, sorry. Our 7th resolution is a cash transfer reversal for the Board of Elections. When we were doing some cleanup back in June on some old funds, we found that there is actually still an old invoice that was out that we now have to get tidied up. Our 8th resolution is creation of the Safe Communities Selective Traffic Enforcement Grant for fiscal year 24 in the amount of $46,656.58. Our 9th resolution is creation of a Safe Communities Impaired Driving Enforcement Program in the amount of $43,156.58. Our 10th resolution is our Victim Assistance Fiscal Year 24 program. Our 11th resolution is the creation of the Drug Task Force Recovery Ohio Grant Fund in the amount of $47,450.38. Our 12th resolution is an acceptance of a second procurement card for the Sheriff's Department. This is due to the fact that sometimes we need cards on site for travel and such. Our 13th resolution is expenses of the county officials, including your trip for the winter conference in Columbus. It appears there are several winter conferences that are coming up now for clerk of courts and the recorder. And then our 14th and final resolution is our weekly bills in the amount of $1,385,383.48. And as always, copies of the bills are kept in the auditor's office for everyone's perusal.
Move to approve the 14 resolutions.
Second.
Discussion?
I just wanted to note that none of those winter conferences actually happen in the winter. November and early
Yeah,
December.
November, and I think the latest is what, December 7th or
Yeah.
something?
Roll.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes. Thank you so much, Brett.
You're welcome.
Next up, we have Chris Jacob, our county administrator.
Good morning. 5 resolutions to present this morning. The first one rejects the bid for the Medina County Emergency Management Agency Facilities Expansion and Renovation Project. Bid was received September 28th, and it exceeded the architect estimate by more than the allowed percentage. Next resolution rescinds a sub-grant agreement with the Village of Seville for use of ARPA dollars. This was originally intended for their wastewater treatment plant expansion project in the amount of $1 million. The third resolution, and a follow-up to the second one, authorizes a new sub-grant agreement for the Village of Seville for a State Route 3 water main project, also using ARPA funds and at the funding amount of $500,000. Fourth resolution approves a Healthy Aging Grant Agreement with the Ohio Department of Aging on behalf of the Office for Older Adults to provide funding for various programs to be determined in the near future. And the fifth and final resolution is approving a tuberculosis control agreement with the Ohio Department of Health. This is for a specific amount of $4,937.07 and is done in conjunction with our local Board of Health.
Move to approve the 5 resolutions.
Second.
Discussion? Roll.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have our department updates, and first up we have Shannon Ryan, our transit director.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Looking at September this year, ridership continues to do very well for us. We're up about 690 trips in demand from last year, so we're definitely seeing some increase in service. I think it has a lot to do with our team's communication. We are seeing a reduction in miles, 1,500 miles down year-to-date from 2022 on an average. So if you look at our monthly loop miles, we're calling those flex miles. We're about to rename all that to all just flex. You're looking at us, saving miles. That's translated into fuel savings of 290 gallons less year-to-date on average a month. So it really is ridership goes up, miles go down, fuel goes down. So just wanted to let you know we're tracking those numbers in great detail. Moving over to the monthly contract summary, Office for Adults reads the highest trips for the agency, 882. That's about 31.3% of our service for the agency. So a lot of communication. I was mentioned earlier to some other folks that we are going out to some of the apartment complexes, senior complexes, and speaking, getting a lot of positive results. A lot of education around the flex route in Medina. It really takes a lot to get the word out, but we're meeting with people face to face. It's probably been the best way to do it, I think. Some of the concerns that we're hearing are around, at certain times of the day, our peak service. I think that's just going to be as we get better at scheduling, but the demand is increasing. We're trying to maybe look at adjusting some of the schedules, not add hours, but maneuver hours in the better times of the day. But we are trying to cover a lot of ground with only the resources we have. So I think the community is understanding that we're trying to get better and be more flexible, and the numbers kind of show that. Some of the updates I have, I'm meeting with the Brunswick administration, city administration on Thursday. They anxiously await their flex service there. So we'll begin that communication right after I meet with them and get ready for after the first of the year for Brunswick, which is a little bit, a couple months behind what I anticipated, but it's okay because we want to do it right.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Oh, I just had a question about the cost per mile.
Okay.
If I look at 2022 averages versus
Yep.
the year-to-date averages, is that all, it's a difference about $1.20, a little less than that? Is that all fuel related?
Fuel related, absolutely. And also our overtime rate, we try to keep our overtime rate around 4%, 3.5%, 4%. It's creeped up a little bit with our driver shortages right now. We did hire one driver who is coming out of training. We have 2 more in the pipeline that'll help drive down that overtime. It gets up to the 5.9% where it's at right now, which is driving those costs along with fuel. So those are the 2 indications. I track on a KPI sheet of what is driving that, and it's easily to say fuel and price of labor to do the business.
So there is a number or a ratio that kind of controls for fuel cost that can show efficiency even when fuel costs fluctuate, or is it, because we're never really going to have control over that part of it.
Well, we're in our budget planning for next year, we're actually an 8 to 10% increase in fuel from last year's budgeting, just to account for what we know will happen or we think will happen. The good news is we've been able to absorb some of that in less fuel.
Sure.
But the price of fuel is what it is.
Well, and that I guess that's kind of the essence of what I'm getting at is we're burning less. It's costing more.
There you go.
So that's a step forward, even though the costs go up. Overall. So
I think it's.
I guess it's a good thing we're burning less.
Well, yeah, and I think, and if you look at another number that I try to not look at because I want it to be zero, is that trip denial number is 56 for September. Remember, it was 101 last month. We're looking at very, very little when we get to the October month. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but October could look to a very low denial rate. That's a number that I kind of hold my breath on to make sure that we're meeting the needs of everyone. But yeah, that's if we're doing anything, we're absorbing cost and we're absorbing ridership. The growth will come later, but that's what we're doing. I'm very thankful to the team. I thank them every month. They work hard with the community, and they really work hard to explain what we're trying to do and make them okay with that. That's not all the time easy because it's change, but we're doing a lot of that work. So.
Yeah, I just want to thank you and the staff. Obviously, the numbers are here as you go through it. But the real difference is, I think, to the customers. We're serving more. It's actually costing us less, which is, it's a good thing for us. But from their perspective, fewer denials. They can get to go when they want, and people are using it more often.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing. And I think that speaks well to the staff and you, as well as the direction of the overall of the Flex program.
as we look to next year, we have a bus stop to put up somewhere that we're looking at. We also are looking at, and I'll talk more about next year's planning when it comes to the new buses arriving and making sure we have the right fleet to do that.
Super.
Great.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Debbie Kiley from Job and Family Services.
Good morning. First off, just 2 resolutions for your consideration this morning. The first is authorizing the county auditor to transfer funds from the JFS Children's Services 4E Fund to the JFS Public Assistance Fund. And the second is authorizing the county auditor to transfer funds from the JFS Children's Services SCPA Fund to the JFS Public Assistance Fund.
Move to approve both resolutions.
Second.
Discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Department updates.
Go for it.
For Child Protective, as of this morning, we have 146 children in care. 2 of them were reunified with their family from last month, and then another 3 emancipated out of our care. So hopefully those children are on to fantastic things. Of those 146, 127 are in traditional foster care placement, whether that's with next of kin, relatives, or just in our traditional foster families. The rest are in either treatment facilities or group homes. The number is still high enough that we're continuing to ask for foster families if they would please step up and consider being a foster family for Medina County. We actually have a family peer mentor who will walk them through the licensure process, follow them through that entire process because it's intimidating and extensive. And then even after post-licensure, help them and their families, if they do receive a child in their care, be kind of like a 24/7 hotline. You know, what do I do when X happens? So that support is there for those that want to foster. For child support, they've completed their fiscal year for 2023. They've collected over $19 million in current support payments. They've established support on 96% of the cases that had been brought before them, and then they closed the year collecting past due support on over 76% of cases that are actually past due. In our Public Assistance Division, we continue the work of recertifying ever since the public health emergency ended. There's approximately 24,000 residents on Medicaid benefits at this time. That's down from the 27,000 at the height of the pandemic. We continue to recertify about 700 cases each month, and that also includes any new applications that are coming in for all programs and then the recertifications for all of those programs. So the heavy work continues. And then agency-wide, just a couple of things. Our Coats for Kids campaign is still underway, so we continue to accept donations so we can purchase coats. The event to give out those coats will be at the Fraternal Eagles on Lafayette Road here in Medina, and that's November 2nd from 6 until 8. And our holiday toy drive, that once again is happening again this year, but I think as I reported last month, we're going to be in 2 different locations. One at our office, 232 Northland Drive, and then the other one is at St. Mark's Lutheran Church, and that's at 1330 North Carpenter Road. So if anyone wants to come and donate gifts, that's November 4th from 9 until noon. We just ask that those gifts are new and unwrapped, please. And then lastly, Jen's Play and Learn. It's a child care center here in Medina, and if you recall, earlier this summer they held a lemonade stand, the little kids did, and all those proceeds came back to the agency to help provide for the children in our care. From a separate fundraising effort, they were able to raise over $900, and just yesterday, Jen, the owner of Jen's Play and Learn, let me know that she was able to jump on our Amazon wish list, and she purchased over 50 Christmas gifts for the children in our care. So I think it's not only fantastic, her consistent support and generosity, but I also love what she's teaching those kiddos, the generosity and giving back. So a public shout out to them. Any questions for me?
I just want to make a comment that the St. Mark's Lutheran is actually on the corner of 303 and North Carpenter, although it has a North Carpenter address. So it's easy to get located. It's right on 303.
Good to know.
And secondly, I want to thank you and the other directors, Laura Toth and Philip Titterington, for, I know you're going out in the communities and talking about the Human Services Levy. I just want to thank you. You're doing a great job. I'm getting good feedback from people that have heard your presentations. You're not advocating for it, but you are educating. And so you're allowed to educate people as to what the Human Services Levy does, and I just want to thank you. You're doing a great job.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Have a good day.
Okay, next up, we have Stacy Malakar from Medina County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to hand these out first for you. Just give you some highlights of some good things that have been going on. The DSP, Direct Support Professional University, we have partnershiped with Medina County Career Center and the Ohio Alliance of Direct Support Professionals to provide training to students at the Career Center that may have an interest in becoming a direct support professional. The statistics show, the U.S. Department of Labor statistics show that this is one of the most in-demand jobs, which is not surprising. We've been talking about the crisis for some time. The unique thing about this and what we're very excited about is that it gives students really specialized training. They get internships, so they're doing hands-on, they're getting out and seeing what it's about. At the same time, they're getting their certification and credentials so that they can go directly in and start providing services. We are paying for the curriculum, and we're also reimbursing the providers that are doing these paid internships. So we have a small group, I want to say 5 students, but the thing that I'm most excited about is that these are students that have expressed an interest. So it's, just one more avenue of trying to build up the DSP pool of people working. We had the leadership class. I just want to give a shout out to them. They have graduated at our first inaugural class. We're very excited. Again, it's a 6-month-long program that we work with individuals that are 18 or over that are interested in this, and we will be providing another class here at the beginning of next year. Disability Employment Awareness Month. October, we like to celebrate and recognize what people with developmental disabilities contribute to the workforce and how vital they are, and also at the same time highlight businesses that have inclusive practices that provide an environment that is welcoming for people with disabilities. So we give a shout out to that. And then I handed out a flyer to you. October is National Bullying Prevention Month. Unfortunately, people with developmental disabilities are more likely to be victims of bullies. That they're seen as people vulnerable because of their physical and mental limitations. So they tend to be targeted more often. 57% of students with intellectual developmental disabilities are bullied. People on the autism spectrum are 3 times more likely to be bullied than their peers. 34% of people with disabilities have reported experiencing both physical and sexual abuse. People with developmental disabilities that have reported bullying, 70% of them have reported that the initial bullying of verbal does escalate and cross the line to physical. So it's a concern. And what we're trying to do, this is a great piece of literature handout that we have provided for the community. We have a program, Speak Up and Speak Out, where we actually go out into the schools and talk about this. Individuals with disabilities go out and talk about bullying and try to educate young children and make a difference. We're also partnering with Society for the People Together and their kindness program at the schools. And again, it's just another opportunity to discuss, bullying and to speak up against that. So,
Any questions?
yeah.
Thank
Great.
you so much, Stacy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Heather McDermott from Board of Elections. Hello.
Oh,
How are you?
2 weeks, huh?
Yes. So we have an election coming in 2 weeks. We're just 14 days out from November 7th, general election. For this election, we have all 131,210 registered voters in Medina County that will be voting on the countywide election. There are a number of candidates throughout the county on the ballot. Not everyone is going to be on the ballot for your specific election. We have the municipal court judge, the municipal clerk, president of council, council at large, city council, Wadsworth city mayor, law director, Wadsworth city auditor, trustees, fiscal officers, village offices, school board, and the governing board of Educational Service Center. We also have 24 questions and issues on the ballot throughout Medina County. There are, like I said, you won't see all of them on your ballot. We do have 2 state issues, issue 1 and issue 2. There is a great big poster that will be at the polling locations and also in the early voting room, just while you're waiting in line. Issue 1 and issue 2, you can expect to be at the voting machines longer while you're voting. It is requiring people to read a lot, so you might want to read and become familiar with the issues prior to voting. So issue 1 is a proposed constitutional amendment, and issue 2 is a proposed law. We have issue 15, which is Medina County Health, Human and Social Services issue. It's a renewal. Those 3 issues are on everyone's ballot. Also of interest, high popularity is issue 17. It is for the city of Medina. It involves the ordinance number 162-22. It has to do with the deer issue. And issue 22 is for the city of Rittman as a proposed income tax. And then we have 3 school issues: Black River Local School, Cloverleaf, and Medina City School. Then we have some fire and EMS issues, roads and bridges, and 7 local liquor options. For this election, there are 2 major polling location changes, which all the voters affected have been mailed a postcard informing them that their location has been changed. The first major one is the fairgrounds voters that were moved to AI Route for the summer election. For the August election, they've been moved back to Fairgrounds Community Center. So they've all been mailed the blue postcard. They're going back to the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds is available again. And Wadsworth voters that were temporarily moved to Isham Elementary for the August election, which were previously at Now Church, are voting at Mosaic Wadsworth at 118 High Street. This is currently a temporary change. So Wadsworth City 1C, 1D, 1E, and 2D. We are looking for a permanent home for these precincts. So if any facilities would like to house voters, we would be grateful to have them as a polling location. So contact us. So what's going on with the election right now? We are currently doing nursing home voting. It began last week and will continue through October 27th. We have bipartisan representatives from the Board of Elections making scheduled visits to state certified nursing facilities in the county to deliver ballots to residents. At our office, up until October 26th, on October 26th, public test is occurring of the voting equipment that goes to the polls. So that's this coming Thursday, we have public test. All voting equipment and electronic poll books are always tested prior to every election. And this testing started in September, right after the August election, and it continues through October. Our staff will be testing and finalizing the equipment for final pack and deployment through next week. Kind of some statistics for up through yesterday. At the end of the day, in-person absentee voters, we had 5,135 voters so far. And absentee mail ballot requests, we've sent out 4,184 ballots, and 1,154 have been returned for processing. Nursing home ballots, we've processed 168 applications, and 48 have been returned for processing. We've visited 3 nursing homes so far, as of yesterday. Hand-carried absentee ballots we have had 79. A few important reminders on election law changes that affected voters this year. The law changes eliminated early voting on the Monday prior to Election Day. So these hours affected the last week of voting. So the deadline to apply for mail-in absentee ballots is now the 7th day before Election Day by 8:30 p.m. So the Tuesday before the election is the last day to apply. And federal or state government issued photo ID is required. So the valid ID requirements, if you go to voteohio.gov, there's a list of valid requirements. There's several types, like Ohio driver's license, state of Ohio ID card, the interim form issued by Ohio BMV, U.S. passport card, U.S. military ID, Ohio national ID card, U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs ID card. We're frequently asked if an unexpired driver's license is acceptable if the address is not correct. As long as the address on file with us in the poll book on record is correct, that is valid. Your ID is proving who you are. So as long as we have your correct address, your ID is proving who you are. It's unexpired. So that's valid. So like I said, we're voting right now in the office. This week our hours are through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Next week we are Monday, 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Tuesday, 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. That's the last day you can request your mail ballot or hand carry ballot. And then Wednesday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Saturday, we're open 8 to 4. And the last day of early voting is Sunday, 1 to 5. And after Sunday, you must vote at your assigned polling location on Election Day. You can return your ballots in person or by mail or drop them off at our monitored, secured drop box that is right outside our entrance door. And the polls are open from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. You can track your ballot and find additional information at voteohio.gov. And as this election wraps up, we roll right into the primary, which deadlines start December 20th. So we'll be doing recounts and audits as we're doing deadlines for that, for the next election. Whew. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
I just was over there last week, and it seemed like there was a steady flow of people coming in for early voting, so that's good. Are you noticing, you mentioned more time, the folks who are voting in person in your office, are they experiencing, is it longer time at the ballot?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're about 500 to 700 people a day, which is heavier than even August, which is pretty heavy for an odd year, even an even year. But people are spending a longer time at the voting machines, making their selections. So the holdup is not processing or getting them in, it's making their selection and then casting their vote. So,
Gotcha. Well, everybody seemed hard at work when I was over there, so
Yep.
keep
That's
up the good
great.
work.
great.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, we do have some commissioner resolutions. We do have a resolution appointing an alternate to the audit committee, and that is John Gorsuch. And then we have a resolution appointing members to the TID Board, Transportation Improvement District Board, Jeff Brandon, Bethany Dottler, Paul Makovac, Richard Monroe, and Conrad Sarnowski. A resolution appointing commissioners alternates for the Planning Commission, Adam Esker for Steve Hamley, Cliff Nowak for Colleen Swedick, and Tom James for Aaron Harrison. And our fourth resolution is appointing a representative to the Medina County Home Advisory Council, and that is Rebecca Bratt.
I move to approve the 4 resolutions.
Second.
Discussion?
Just want to thank everybody that's
Yes.
Serving on these various commissions
Yes.
and boards and so forth. Volunteers, this is how the government works, local government works particularly, and just want to thank them for their participation.
Definitely.
Yes. Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes. We also have a notice of a liquor permit filing. For the record, the commissioners received notice of a new liquor permit request for PAV Medina LLC, doing business as Fiesta Jalapeno Mexican Restaurant Bar and Grill, 4913 Grand Boulevard, Medina Township, Medina, Ohio. This is for a D5 permit, and this is just, we do not need a hearing. This is just a notice that we're provided for the record. Okay, next we are on to public comment. Do we have any public comment? Okay, we are on to discussion session, and I see Jeremy still sitting there, so that means Jeremy has something.
I have a few things.
Okay.
First off, wanted to just give you an update on that Hinckley bar screen project. That project was advertised on October 10th. And we had an engineer's estimate of around $3.1 million for that. However, that also included a replacement of our SD9 building, which was an old package plant that the EPA kindly allowed us to take care of. So we do appreciate the ARPA money for this project. Next item is State Route 18. Been in discussion with our consultant on this project, and in the original proposal for our the current pump, we have 3 pump stations on State Route 18. We have Medina Line, the middle, and the airport going from east to west. Currently, the Medina Line pumps into middle then pumps to airport then pumps to Windfall, and then it's gravity from that point on. During the initial design service agreement, the idea was to replace the pump stations in kind. And then as we did our capacity study wrapped up after this, it was determined that the flow from Sharon was going to require the middle pump station to be able to pump at least an additional, I think a 1,600 gallon a minute flow. And in doing so, it creates a large pump station to the effect of for the wet well that we're going to need at the middle pump station now is going to be about a 40-foot diameter wide hole and about 30 feet deep. So now we have to, instead of using a pre-packaged system where we can just drop it in, we have to design the wet well, and then now we need a custom building due to the size of the pump station. So we have structural, HVAC, electrical. The original thought was that the pump station was going to be around, $1.5 million to $2 million. Now we're upwards of about $6.5 to $7 million for this pump station. So the idea was to make this pump station large enough that it could pump to Windfall directly and not pump to airport to then also have to size airport as large. So we're actually going to bypass airport. Airport will then connect into this force main as part of this, and then we will get that flow to Windfall. So there was an additional, I believe it was an additional $165,000 for the design services, bringing that total to about $240,000 for design services of the middle pump station. So this would be an amendment to that existing contract. And then there's also some construction services applied to that as well. Totaling everything, it's about a $340,000 amendment to the agreement. This amendment also includes replacing Medina Line Pump Station now. Originally, with Sharon coming up State Road, we have a pump station on State Road. The new force main goes down State, dumps in at the gravity line at Medina Line and State Road. We've had some force main issues on State Road. Had a couple. On Medina Road, where we have a force main that's 20 to 25 foot deep out there. So we had already talked about replacing that force main going to Medina Line Pump Station. At this point, the only thing that's not getting replaced at right now is the Medina Line Pump Station. So between River Styx Bueller's and Medina Line, basically that entire corridor of sewer is going to be replaced. So we were thinking, well, if I was a sanitary engineer in the future and looked back and say, why didn't we replace this entire sewer system except for this pump station? Why didn't we just do that? So trying to, we were looking into that, and there was an $80,000 for the design. That's survey, geotech, and the design cost. The design cost for this was the same as the middle pump station. The pump station out there currently it's a can pump station. So think of like a very tall soda can, right? Mm-hmm. And at the bottom of this soda can, about 25 feet down, is where the pumps are and the controls that operate the pump. Next to it, you have a 25-foot deep wet well with a pipe connecting the two. Something happens between that pipe connecting those two, the wet well and the can, you're having to excavate down. This new package pump station would be a new wet well. The pumps would be submersible, so they'd be in the wet well, and all the piping would be right inside of that. So we have access to everything, and would recommend that at this point we should probably just replace that station. It's pushing 35 years old as of right now, and if we're replacing everything else, it does make sense, in my opinion, to replace it. So wanted to get approval from you to move forward with that amendment, if that's if everyone's agreeable to that, or if you have any questions regarding this.
Well, I would agree, obviously, that we ought to go ahead, given the age of it. It's going to happen sooner or
Yeah.
later, and might as well at this point, since we're bundling also all the financing and kind of deciding we're going to do
Correct.
the full scope of the project. But this is as a consequence of adding that other service area, Sharon Township.
Correct.
And having to literally redo that whole line along State Route 18.
Correct.
So years ago, when the decision was made to add that service area, this basically is the consequence of those decisions.
I don't know if it was necessarily looked at as thoroughly as we have, but
Pretty sure it wasn't.
But we're making the best of it as we can, with what we got. So
I suppose this is a good opportunity to not saddle future sanitary engineers with those kinds of decisions too, is when you talk
Or
about the
future
upgrades.
boards.
Right, yeah.
It seems like a lot of things have repair, like the way we repair things seems like it always got pushed down the road a little bit, and I'm trying to do my best not to cause future problems for
Now,
future.
are we going to, I guess, try to be aggressive in looking at additional funding opportunities from the state level?
Sure.
Other than the loans.
Correct. Yeah. Well, the idea with this one is typically we go through OWDA.
Right.
With this project, we are going through the Ohio EPA for funding. The Ohio EPA's DEFA, they have their rates are typically about 1.25 to 1.5 points less than OWDA. However, you have to do a little bit more work in order to obtain the loan, but we are going to do that with a project of this cost. That percentage will make a big difference.
But I think we really ought to also focus and see what grants we can
Sure.
actually go after for some portions of this, given the additional costs, and just in terms of the improvement in water, obviously water quality and future water quality impacts for the area.
Sure. Yeah, we're always open to free money.
Yeah. Well, there's that, and also the development of customers along that route too. And
Correct.
As well as Route 18 continues to develop, and hopefully promotion, then you get more customers helping pay the bill.
Correct. And these sewers are being sized to make sure that if with full commercial development that we don't have to do this again.
Yeah.
Right. Which was the original plan in the 90s when they did their corridor study, was to, and they made that investment. I think that basically was an assessment project.
That was an assessed project. We're
Way
still
back one of the last major ones.
Correct.
The county did. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still trying to collect on some of those deferred assessments.
Yeah. Okay.
So, all right, and I have one last thing. So,
Is this the big one?
this is the big one.
Oh, jeez.
That wasn't the big
I know,
one?
that, I thought I was joking.
No, this isn't even,
I thought I was making a
I
joke.
should have started with the big one first.
Yeah.
the future is expensive.
So here, I'm just going to pass this down. So we have recently received, we went out for a statement of qualifications for design services. I don't know if you need an extra one for Rhonda. So this is for the wastewater treatment plant. We've been working with Hayes and Sawyer. They provided their estimated cost for this project. It is $5.4 million of design engineering services. I would like to bring to the attention here that the 5.4 is not just for the design of the project. This is going to be a project that's on their Gantt chart that they provided as part of their submission. We're looking at a 5 to 6 year project from beginning, planning, design, construction. So this is, again, this is a 5 to 6 year project. The design services, as you can see, were broken down into essentially 6 separate tasks. You have the preliminary design, you have detailed design, funding assistance, CMAR, which is a construction manager at risk, the construction and post-construction assistance. The preliminary phase basically is going to cover over our planning phases, the field investigation, site conditions, Army Corps permitting, surveying, geotech. We're going to have to do soil borings and potential easements. And this also includes the potential of having to relocate one of our existing pump stations there currently. I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but over by the driveway to the soccer complex down over there off of Lake Road, we do have a pump station right there. You know, that we'll look at whether should that pump station sit there, because basically from there we have I believe 2 force main lines that go from that pump station north through easements that tie into the current plant. Is that the proper place for this moving forward? Maybe it is. It's just we just got to evaluate that. The other portions is detailed design, so they'll submit 30%, 60%, 90%, and final drawings, specifications, and that also includes submittals for the Ohio EPA to assist us with obtaining our PTI to be able to install that. They'll also help us with the funding assistance, and that would be going through the Ohio EPA. The design loan, I believe, through the Ohio EPA is at 0%. So the construction portion of this would not be able to be included as that loan, but all the design portion of this, I believe, would be covered under a loan at 0%. So, so they would assist us with that, and then also help us out with getting that lower loan rate than we would receive through OWDA. They would help us with the construction manager at risk. The idea is that we evaluate the contractor ahead of time, and then they provide us a gross maximum price similar to the courthouse building, where we'll work with we get to select a contractor based on their qualifications instead of putting the project out and going with the lowest and best. So that was the thought process there. And then plus the contractor will also work with us on design, so we can hopefully eliminate a lot of changes into the project through the coordination with them and our engineer. They're anticipating 24 months of construction, and this cost also does include 24 months of they refer to it as a resident project representative. It's an inspector. So I was told that was legal lingo these days. And then that also includes construction meetings, reviewing of all the materials that need to be installed, and requests for information, responses, change order reviews. And then we kind of move into the post-construction assistance. That's training us, helping us train on the new equipment, the systems, maintenance, operation and maintenance manuals, startup assistance, and as-builting all of the construction. So essentially, when you start looking at the pricing, it's about $619,000 for the preliminary design. You got $2.4 million in the design. I would say as a rule of thumb, typically 10% is what we anticipate for just design services of a project. We are at, I want to say we'll probably be in the neighborhood of 7%, 6%, with the design, because the design is part of that 5.4, and we're anticipating $35 to $40 million for this treatment plant, all said and done. These are the cost as well. These are estimated hours that you can see in there that the engineer provided. We will be billed based on actual use, and these are not to exceed numbers from the engineer. The only thing that, if there's a change in scope or something, there might need to be an amendment if we're changing, if they have to provide something additional than what we had talked about. But I would imagine that this should hopefully be it. So before we got back to the engineer and with the cost of this, I wanted to make sure we had support from you commissioners to move forward with this, considering it is such a large
Now, this,
sum.
obviously, building this kind of expansion is like once in a lifetime for a lot of sanitary engineers.
Agreed.
And, but I know part of this is also the planning portion involves the local communities looking at the right size. In other words, we've got current capacities and what we anticipate, but likewise, a lot of that's tied into the local zoning decisions.
Correct.
And meeting with the communities as well as the property owners and businesses as part of this, evaluating, seeing if it ought to be expanded in any way. Obviously, more customers means you can help pay for
Correct.
this kind of investment, but it's going to change that whole area, obviously,
Yeah.
in a significant degree. But obviously, the improvements in water quality are really the key
Correct.
thing here, protection of the water
There
quality. In that whole watershed, which is Chippewa Lake, and that drainage area, obviously, it's very important to be able to have a capacity for public sewers as opposed to failing septic tanks. And I think this is the way I look at it, is these are the major investments that need to be made to make sure that in the future of that area that it does have a good a water quality that is livable.
Yeah, and we have factored in a lot of these costs
Right.
into my 10-year capital improvement plan. So this is part of. I mean, it was obviously anticipated. So
So this is the engineering and design component from start to finish.
correct.
And then the other main component of the project is the construction manager at risk.
Correct.
So they will kind of get us up to that point.
They.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we would select and
Yep.
then they still stay on board for the post-construction that you.
Correct. Yeah, they'll get the plans to like in our general conversation. They get plans to about 30%. Bring the CMAR on board at that point, and then start working the design with the CMAR to
Right.
get everything.
They bring them up to speed.
Yep.
and-
They
yeah.
do the review of the plans, and then they work with the CMAR and us. All three parties would work together to get the final set of plans out, and then again, we would still have as part of that CMAR, they would give us that gross maximum price
Yeah.
to work with as well.
And within this, the 7 phases or tasks, I guess, that are outlined in here, that's over several years.
5 to 6 years. That's correct.
Now, am I correct in saying that we have to move forward with the improvements with
The plant
wastewater
needs-
treatment plant?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, if we feel that this dollar amount is too high, we have two options. We can go back and try to renegotiate less hours with the current selected engineer, or you go to the second. However, that doesn't guarantee that the second will be cheaper.
Well, no, I was going back to the fundamental decision. We have to do something with the wastewater treatment facilities within the Chippewa
Correct,
Lake.
yeah,
We have no option there. We have to move forward with
Yeah.
that. I'm not saying we have to move forward with this
Yeah.
proposal, but I'm talking about EPA is requiring us.
We have our permit to our discharge permit is good through, I think, another 4 years.
Right.
So, but the state of that, I mean, it was built in 1920s. I mean, there's been a couple upgrades that have been done to it, but all in all, it needs to be replaced.
And that's what I'm trying to point to.
Yeah.
Absolutely, the public watching this, it's not like, hey, we want to spend this amount of money. We literally have to
Yeah.
in order to meet those water quality. And when you're talking about well, I won't say nearly a century, but
Yeah.
kind of facility, you've got to do the improvement. You'd have to, and this is the best way that we know, most economical way to do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the county back in, I think, 2000 purchased the property adjacent
Yes.
to this plant.
For that purpose,
So we
yeah.
can actually construct this plant on the parcel adjacent to it and keep the existing plant going until we're ready to switch it over and then we can demo the old plant. So there is, I mean, it was actually some really well thought out land purchase there.
Well, I'm glad we held on to it as well as didn't turn it into the sheriff shooting range like one sheriff wanted over there, but.
You have my support. You're killing me, but you have my support.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for the record, I never want to spend this much money. I think the necessity has been established,
yeah.
so.
I mean, it is a big dollar amount, and that's, again, why I wanted to
This is
speak.
what happens when you're in the sewer business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Gotta do it right. Okay.
sounds good. Well,
Okay.
I believe that's it, so I appreciate your
It
time.
doesn't get worse from there.
No.
That's good.
But, all right, well, thank you, everyone.
Dan, did you have something else? Did you have something? No. Okay. Anyone else? Steve, what do you got?
No, I got nothing.
Aaron?
We did get a proposal on the sustainability roadmap. I know we'll probably have a more thorough discussion about that. I took a quick look at that, and I guess I have some questions. And Bethany Dantler mentioned that she was willing to come in for a meeting, so maybe we can get that on the discussion session. Could we do that next week, do you
Yeah.
think?
Sure, I'm
Yeah.
sure that'd be great. Just need time to review their proposal.
Okay, so I talked to Chris, and it looks like we're gonna do budget hearings in January, so, we will not need our December 26th, commissioners meeting, so Chris is gonna, take care of whatever we need to do with the auditor on that issue, correct?
Well, tentatively, right? Yeah.
There's always a chance there's going to be a last minute meeting, so.
You're killing me.
As long as there's two of us around, we can do the
Did
meeting.
you have anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so, okay,
You know,
that
I
one
have
didn't
one-
go well.
I have one other thing, I forgot. I apologize. We had mentioned, Chris had mentioned a couple weeks ago about the sheriff, that we're going out for, proposals on the, food service, thank you. I was gonna get there, but you helped me. And it sounds like we've had a couple entities that have expressed an interest, have downloaded the proposal, so.
Yeah, we've responded to the questions that have been asked by one of the potential proposers, and there's a facilities tour scheduled as part of the proposal process for tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, so that's, I just, from a standpoint of an update, that is, I think, a concern in terms of, the not knowing what that's gonna look like heading into next year and talking to the sheriff about the jail budget. But it's good to know there's been some activity on that. I just wanted to thank Chris for his efforts to get that up and running.
Proposal deadline is, I believe, November 2nd.
So we received the MOU from the University of Akron about the arrangement for 2 of the training rooms. So I'm hoping to get a resolution ready for that for next Tuesday. But Tom Cadesco from the prosecutor's office is reviewing that, so I'm hoping he gets that done this week so we could have on resolution.
I'm fine with moving forward with
Well,
it
yeah,
as soon
yeah,
as possible.
okay, great.
Yeah, I think it looks great.
So if we could get a resolution for that ready.
Certainly.
Thank you, sir. Anybody have anything else?
I have one more thing.
You do, wow,
Keep coming back
okay.
to me. I like
It's
to
not
draw it
me
out.
this time.
I'm gonna give him a turn and that's gonna be it.
Law Library Resources Board and the Law Library Association Board, I have an invitation out to their groups along with the law librarian and the other interested parties. We're going to meet over at 72 Public Square tomorrow at 11:30.
Oh, great.
And any other members of the bar or interested parties who want to show up and look at some potential space
Excellent.
for the law library, either for a to-be-determined use, either temporary relocation or potentially even a permanent relocation that could be coupled with 24-hour access because it's not at the courthouse. So that meeting will happen tomorrow. Obviously, it's just a walkthrough and a look-see, as we like to call it, as I like to call it, as I just called it. And then we will, after that, probably invite them back for another discussion session at a future date to for us to kind of consider options moving forward. So I'd like to think that we'd have some kind of plan around long-term plans, between now and the end of the year. So
Great. And Yeah, that's a good option over there for 24-hour access.
We're still kind
I
of,
would think potentially, they don't really buy books anymore, right? So potentially square footage in the future is not as big as they currently
I
are?
think, not to speak for,
Just a question.
yeah, I
not
think
a-
they would like to see their square footage remain comparable to what they have right
Oh,
now.
Interesting.
But also, I think if you look at the MOU, I don't see anything in there that dictates that. But I think the intention would be, and I think our intention, to the extent we can provide it, would be to give them
Okay.
a comparable amount of square footage over there. Whether or not we may be required to.
So should we ask Brian if we've heard from the prosecutor? We're not sure yet if we can go in an executive session.
No, he has.
We're not.
Give him
Okay.
the shake.
All right, so,
I do want to mention, we are doing a walkthrough of the remodeled battered women's shelter at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
Yes.
Two of us commissioners will be there. I don't know if you want to accompany us. It's not open generally to the general public. Once it opens, that's meant to be obviously private for those that are there. It is a county-owned facility. Commissioners, we bought it a number of years ago. It has gone through a major remodel, and just we're going to be walking through it and seeing it before it closes for public view. So, anyway.
and it does get a little county money annually through our
Well,
marriage certificates, marriage
marriage
license.
license fees?
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes, thank you, everyone. See you next week.